Good morning, everybody. I am Cassidy Bass, the Director of Career Development and Marketing for ReMax Crest and Masters. And joining us today, we have one of the top producing agents at our ReMax Masters office. He is well respected in the industry, and he is one of the people that first comes to mind for me as a true leader in this industry, not just in the amount of business that he does, but also in the way that he conducts himself at every level of the business. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Mark Ballard. Mark, thank you for joining me today.
Well, thank you for having me, Cassidy. This is fun.
So why don't we start off? Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your business?
I started out, I have a degree in real estate from UBC, and the old degree is not the Sauder School of Business Commerce degree in real estate. It was called the Urban Land Economics degree. But with it, you got your real estate license and your mortgage brokerage license and things. And so I have that degree. Was a mortgage broker for about 17 years. Coming out of school, I had a construction company that did some home building and things like that. And then I got into selling early on in the new millennium. And so I've been solely selling for the last, 17, almost 20 years, I guess.
Great. And this is obviously a very dynamic industry. As you know better than anyone, it's always changing and it's quite a competitive industry. What do you have to do to stay at your best as a realtor in this industry?
Well, there's some very old, tried and true things about being a realtor and being sincere here, wanting to serve and things like that I think we'll touch more on a little bit later. But really being on top of critically, to be on top of the technology. And for old dinosaurs like me in the business, that becomes more of an effort than, sort of my grandkids, right? Because they get to it absolutely honestly, right? So that part is a little bit more tough, but I think that it's still incumbent on real estate agents to stay on the cutting edge. And that is to be able to service your clients with all aspects and all tools available in the business.
Absolutely. I always think like staying on top of technology, it keeps you young, because you're learning and you're adapting and so absolutely. One of my favorite books that I read last year as part of the ReMax Crest and Masters book club was Atomic Habits by James Clear. It's an awesome read. He's got a great Instagram feed that has kind of some sound bites from it and an awesome newsletter that comes out every Thursday. So I'm interested to know kind of what habits do you have that you feel have contributed to your success in the industry over the years?
I think you got to put in the reps. I really do. That struck home with me in his book. I think you always have to be learning, and reading, I think, is a big deal. Taking seminars, the Realtor Continuing Education Program from the board, these are all aspects of it, but you really have to be always wanting to learn more about your trade and your craft, okay, and honing it. And you really have to put in the work. I used to say this as an adage to young, people that I would mentor. It said, you don't have to call 20 people a day. People think, I can, I've got 8 hours, I can do nothing. All I can do is phone people. I said to a realtor, I said, listen, do you think you can make one call, make a call that actually goes through, not to voicemail, right? But if you make one call in the morning, do you think you can do that? And he go, for sure I can do that, right? And then I said, okay, so we do that, and you actually have to speak to the person, okay? And then in the afternoon, do you think you could make one call from noon to 5 or 6 o'clock in the afternoon? Can you make one call? Oh, easy. I said, okay, well, that means that you've done 2 solid contacts that day. That turns out to be 10 a week. That's almost 50 a month. That's almost 600 a year. Okay, so what you need to do is, it's that, that pace. You just keep it up, and you got to be persistent.
It's not much. And, it's kind of like the idea of like just getting started, or like if it's going to the gym, just put your shoes on. And that's almost the hardest part, So yeah, and it's amazing how that, like you say, like how that compounds and can mean small little things that you just do consistently can mean really big things at the end of the day.
I have another personal mantra that says we eat our elephants. We eat our elephants one bite at a time. And it's just exactly what, like you say, going to the gym, if you put your running shoes on it, you're head and shoulders above the next guy, and you're almost at the gym. You got to drive there and get there and do it, but put those little steps in the way of getting it. And that's what I mean when I say we eat our elephants one bite at a time. You might look at this huge, daunting problem and just go, oh, I can never deal with it. And all you have to do is put one foot in front of the other, and you'll get through it.
Exactly. Yeah. And just start, and once you do one call, usually you're like, okay, that was good. That went well. And then it kind of can snowball from there. So if you can just commit to that one, I think that's great advice.
Yeah.
So my next question is around professionalism. Now, I have had the pleasure of working with you many moons ago as your assistant and I got to see you in action. And a lot of things stood out to me, but a couple that I'll just bring up today have to do with dealing with expired listings. I remember you calling when you got a listing that had been expired. You would call the agent that was unsuccessful in selling that listing, and let them know that you're going to be taking the listing on. I've also seen you call that agent and offer to pay for the professional photographs that they had done for that listing. And those things I think are easy for an agent, not to do, but they really mark, leadership in this industry. And I think it's a really great practice. So when you think of agents that you love to deal with, what makes them stand out from the rest? And what do you think makes a true professional in this industry?
It's a really good question. I think that the sincerity comes through for people that are in this business, not for the paycheck, but for the sincere part of serving your fellow man. And I think that one of my adages, and this already, is that another personal mantra of mine is I want everybody I come in contact with to experience a wow. Okay? And it's aspirational. I fail all the time at that. But one of the things that I've always felt is that it's important that anybody I come in contact with, I approach from the position of trying to wow them. And so that means like other realtors are a big relationships that we have. I was going to touch on this in one of the later questions, but as you know, throughout my time at ReMax for the last, coming 17, 18 years, I've had an open door policy. I've had all kinds of, young agents that open the door, or they don't even have to open the door because it's open. Poke their head in and say, I've got this issue, I've got this problem. I don't know what I'm doing. I feel like a fish out of water. How do I handle it? Mm-hmm. And I always thought that was something that was really important for all of us. The collaboration between agents, I think, 100% is important.
Yeah, 100%. And really, like I mentioned to you when I, sent you the questions ahead of time, like doing this interview is to, really showcase the, culture of collaboration that we have at our offices. And I remember working with you in your office, and yeah, you're right. New agents would come in and they'd say, hey, Mark, can I see your listing presentation? And you'd give them that big brick that was your listing presentation, and then, take it for a couple of days, flip through, make some notes and learn from it. And that's, I think that's so great. And, I'm sure you had people help you when you got started too. And so I think it's so important to give back in that way.
I think it's a kind of that aspect of paying it forward, because if you're in this business for any length of time, you become the older guy or the older person, the more experienced person. And, it's hard enough, right, to begin and do this kind of job because you're a bit of a lone wolf, although there's people around you. And a lot of people don't take advantage of the people around you. But it's nice to know that questions get answered, that you're not kind of flying blind. And I like that aspect, especially of our office. I like how we all kind of get together. The other morning, we were sitting here and all self-distanced, in the collaboration zone. And we got our masks on, and there was Sam and me, Matt, Des, right? And we're all sitting around and just, chewing the fat and talking and seeing how people were doing and things like that. And that makes this business so much more satisfying when you have those relationships right here in the office.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So I was talking to Denise prior to this interview, and I said, "Hey, look, Denise is of course, your managing broker," and I said, "I'm interviewing Mark next week. What do you think I should ask him?" And she said, "You know what? He's really great when it comes to offer presentations. He's shared some great tips in the past. Now, I know offer presentations have changed quite a lot, especially since COVID, with us all moving virtual. But what tips would you say make for a really strong offer presentation?"
Well, the one tip that I think that new agents really need to know, and it's really kind of funny because back when my son was kind of working with us, right, and he was the young guy right out of school, and he was working with us here at ReMax, and he had other friends that were good friends of his that had graduated and are now in real estate. And he was talking to one, and I was overhearing him on the phone, and he was talking to a buddy of his who was new in the business, and had experienced a multiple offer situation the night before. And he was saying, "Oh yeah, we had 5 offers, and it was great that 3 didn't have subjects on them, and so we accepted the highest offer, and it was fantastic, and we had such a great feeling coming out of the morning, right?"
Yeah.
And Will said, "Well, how did all the conversations go when you told the other realtors, the other 4 realtors, that they weren't the highest offer?"
Yeah.
And then there was just dead silence. And then you could hear on the phone, because in these offices, you're like right next to everybody, right? You could hear the guy on the phone go, "Can you do that?" And I thought, "Oh no, oh my God," right? So one thing I would say is that your job is to be the best that you can be for your client. And if you're the listing agent, that has demands on it. And you really need to learn the art of conducting multiple offers, right? And there are people out there that have been, only allow you 1 offer, and then you accept the best offer. But that's not really, in my mind, that's not really doing the absolute maximum you can do for your seller, right? And I get back to everybody that isn't the highest and say, "Listen, you're not the highest. Sharpen your pencil, talk to your clients, get back to me." If I have 3 offers without subjects and I have 2 offers with subjects, I go to the 2 and say, "Listen, I have 3 offers with subjects. Get rid of subjects and you're in the game. If you keep subjects, you're not in play." And you know what? Everybody has respected me over the years for that, because they know where they stand.
Right.
And I wait until every single one of the 5 offers is done the best they can do. It's almost at the point where they're throwing a pot and pan at their realtor, that kind of thing, right? But when you do get to that point, now you've touched everybody's max offer. You've done everything possible for your client to succeed.
Right.
And then you ask your client which one he wants to accept. So that is a funny little sidebar, but I wonder how many agents out there. I'm kind of a funny guy about what I call iceberg theory. And my iceberg theory is that if you hear 1 or 2 people say it, there's a whole bunch under the water that aren't saying. So I'm wondering how many new realtors just haven't had that time to talk to an experienced guy to say, how do you conduct them?
Right.
How much time do we spend in morning meetings saying, how do you conduct yourself in offer presentations? Anyway, I could talk all day on this.
That's great. No, I love it. And, for those of you watching, actually next week, I believe it is, I think on the 21st, we've got a class on doing offer presentations by Wayne Ryan, our managing broker, who's sold a gazillion properties himself and has a ton of experience too. So if any of you watching want to join in on that, let me know and I can get to the link to that class. So yeah, thanks, Mark. So same kind of question when it comes to negotiation. I'm sure you've seen a wide spectrum of negotiation skills over the years. What jumps out at you as really important to negotiation, skills, and what jumps out at you as things you really shouldn't do that maybe you see people do more often than you'd like to see?
I really respond well to people that are really honest. If you're being cagey and you're withholding information, I can't help you help your client in the negotiation. So part of the idea of negotiation is certainly um, um, there's this kind of fight, the sort of confrontational aspects. I have my client that I'm working for, you have your client that you're working for, and we're kind of in the trenches battling.
Mhm.
But there's also a collaboration aspect too, right? The ideal is that scenario is when we have achieved a sale and there's a win-win. We have, the sellers are walking away and have kind of finished writing the chapter in their lives that pertain to this home, right? And the new people are coming in and to write a new chapter in that home. And I think that collaboration or that cohesiveness that the realtors can bring to the equation. And it is a little bit of a fine line, very professional fine line, that you are pushing for your client's best interest, and obviously being very confidential with their information, but also being honest and sincere in your negotiating with the other party, so the other realtor can actually help put the deal together.
Right.
And I just find sometimes that we're dealing with people that aren't telling you the whole thing, and so you really don't know how to help.
Right.
You don't know how to get the thing over the finish line because you don't have all the pieces.
Yeah, that's absolutely great advice, and people pick up on that honesty and that sincerity. Makes it easier to get the job done for sure. I'm curious too, kind of like a follow up on these two topics. I've seen negotiation tips surrounding having a buyer write a letter to the seller that kind of pulls on the heartstrings and shares the meaning that this home would bring them. Is that something that you've done, or is that something that you've seen, and how has that rolled out in your experience?
I think I've done a lot, especially in multiple offer scenarios, because during the COVID environment, we haven't had that sort of personal touch of being able to present our offers in person. And it is a bit of a dying aspect to the business because everybody just sort of gets it by email and then, shoots all 4 offers off to their sellers. And there's not that sort of where we used to actually come to ReMax and parade the realtors through, and they would give you a seller a sense of who was putting the offer in. Husband, wife, 2 kids, 1.4 dogs, all that kind of thing, right? And we've lost that. And so I think that letter really kind of addresses that issue of the fact that anybody selling a home really wants to know the legacy of what that home is going to go to. And everybody might say, oh, price, just show me price. And the rest's irrelevant. It's not to most people.
Mm-hmm.
I've got stories where I can tell you, and if we had more time, I would tell you where, a wife puts her foot down and on a listing presentation because, she wanted little children in the home. And so the lower offer, but, family of 4 won the deal, even though they weren't as high as the sort of single male.
Right.
So, I think that's a big deal. And I would involve that kind of letter writing on almost every deal. And I would suggest as a tip, you get the buyers to write it.
Right. Yeah.
Right? They write it from their own heart.
Mm-hmm.
And that sincerity comes through, and with a picture as well.
Right. Of course. Yeah. I mean, the outgoing family, they have so many memories there, and there's an attachment to that home. So it makes a lot of sense. That's great. So diving into your CMAs here, I know that's a topic of interest for everyone watching. They're very thorough. Tell me about what are the main components to your CMA and what you feel makes them go the extra mile.
Well, I've always believed that a CMA, really a comparative market analysis, has to touch on different aspects. So there's a multitude of of methodologies that we look at how one might determine or identify market value. And, some people say, oh, it's 10% above assessed value. Well, that may well be at certain times it is, certain times it's below, assessed value, and other times it's much larger than assessed value. But that in itself is kind of voicing a methodology, okay? And so what I say is I never like to rely on one methodology. So I look at what are the several methodologies that make sense in that particular situation. Condos, due to its homogeneity and the fact that there are a lot of similar products out there, really lend themselves well to price per square foot. Okay, but price per square foot doesn't lend itself well when you're talking about single family homes, because as you look at down the street, there's older, newer, bigger, some with views, some without, some with pools, some without, some are renovated, some aren't. So that's not a opportunity where price per square foot would make a difference, right? And doesn't glean some kind of insight. So, the default one, the one that appraisers always use, is called the market comparison approach, and that's basically using other houses that are somewhat similar but dissimilar in some aspects, but that are close to the subject property, right? So again, that's another methodology. And each methodology comes with a certain amount of assumptions based in it, and those assumptions weaken it as a methodology. And so hopefully by doing 2 or 3 or 4 of these different methodologies and working through them in your own brain, you understand the market much more thoroughly.
Right.
You have a better idea of what the price is. Now, if you have a string of 10 townhouses, all 9 sold for $1 million, what's the 10th one worth? Well, likely we're going to say $1 million. But if it happens to be the end unit with a view, with windows on 3 sides instead of windows on, 1 side or 2 sides, right? Is it closer to the road or is it further away? Is it closer to parking? Is it further away? So there's all these kinds of aspects that come into it that bear into the pricing model. And bare bones, you're probably somewhere around $1 million. But is that really doing our job to that level of wow that we're trying to achieve, right? In a professional sense. So.
Right. Yeah, that's great. Thanks for sharing, Mark. So next question I have has to do with agents wanting to grow their business. If we look at an agent that's not where they want to be and they want to grow or they want to accomplish bigger things than they've ever accomplished before, what advice would you have for somebody in that position?
It's it's kind of a dog eat dog world out there. It really is an industry where I always come from abundance, and I say, the fact that one of my good friends is doing a real estate deal doesn't mean that it stole it from me. I'm kind of an abundant guy, thinking there's lots of business to go around.
Right.
Having said that, there is a finite number of deals being done in the world. Right? So you've got to be better than your competition. You flat dab have to outwork them. Okay? I outwork everybody I know. And certainly over the years, collectively, that's been a hallmark of my success. And anybody that you talk to is pretty much going to be similar. How do we grow the business? And you don't really do this business. There are aspects of social media. There are aspects of how hard you work, how efficiently you work. But I believe in being belly to belly. I believe in being involved with the client, being there, being present. Now, that's harder in a COVID environment. But let's discount COVID for a bit and say that the longevity of our careers have these little ups and downs that change the environment, that change legislation and things like that. I think you have to be doggedly persistent and you have to push in every sense of the word. So How do you grow your business? You have to work harder. Right? We used to say in the beginning when I got into the business, and this is years and years ago, back in the 80s when we were doing mortgage brokerage, if you needed a client list, the boss, the managing broker would come in and drop the big telephone book, the Vancouver telephone book. It's like that's it, right? Because there's your client list, right?
Right.
Now we've honed it since then, and we have all the database and everything like that. But you have to be in front of people more often. Wayne said it right. He had a 4,000 home farm area when he was selling, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Wayne was very clear. But every 3 weeks, he did a touch base with every one of them, right? And that persistence, that dedication pays off.
Absolutely. Yeah, I remember last year with our business planning session, one of the things that was featured was one of the Toronto Raptors, and they had obviously just won. And one of his mantra was understand the grind. And I think that's what you're speaking to, is just understanding what it takes and just that push to just push a little bit further and a little bit more. Yeah, there's an interesting book out there too, kind of on that topic, called Go for No. So it's like, just try to achieve that next no, right? And you'll get more yeses as well. I think that's great. And I know one thing that you've spoken about in the past that has really helped you grow your business was getting to that level where you decided to hire an assistant. Can you speak a little bit to that?
Okay. This is actually a pet little issue with me. Okay.
Okay.
And I'm very passionate about this. Okay. I got my first assistant when I was 6 months in the business. Okay. I didn't wait until I was, a big realtor and had lots of success, because I knew right away that, my first assistant cost me, I think, $40,000 or something like that. Now they're 60 or something like that, which is the going rate for a good assistant. And basically I looked at it, and my average deal end was about 10 grand at the time. I think it's higher now, because prices have gone up, and that was 20 years ago, right? But that meant to me that for 4 deals in a whole year, I could have somebody full-time help. And it was a no-brainer that told me that I was not good at the paperwork. I didn't want to do all of the stuff, and I'm way better out belly to belly with people than me stuck in an office trying to push paper around, right? So I knew right away, get an assistant that can handle that, and it freed me up right away. And some people said, it was a bit of a meteoric rise in my career, mm-hmm. And I attribute that a lot to that decision.
Right.
I had a lot of people that came in the same time as I did and never really got to the level that I got to. And I think it's really to get somebody that's good at that and get them early. Recognize that's not what you do. It's not what you do well. So don't force yourself to do it. I love my career. I love this business. And I love it because I don't do any of that.
Right.
And I got an assistant right away. 6 months in the business.
And that must have been like an intimidating choice for you, right? Like early on, making that choice to spend that money and make that commitment that you're, hiring someone, you're giving them a job that they're now relying on and all that. So it obviously took a belief in you in knowing that, hey, this is kind of like ride or die. Like this is my career. This is a long-term thing for me. I'm going to be successful or I'm not going to be in this. And yeah.
I mean, like I was all in. Right? I had only done about 5 deals to that point in my first year. And I only had about 2 of them pay out. I'd only had 2 deals paying commission. I did a deal. It was really funny. I got a referral from an ex-realtor who I'd known for years. And he referred me his son. And that was in my first week. But I didn't have another deal for like 3.5 months.
Gosh.
Right? And so I didn't have very many deals under my my belt at the time when I went looking for an assistant, but I knew. And I got her at about 6 to 7 month point by the time she was working with me. I think it was like August or whatever of that year, not in September of that year. I finished the year with 26 deals. Now, again, I don't blow my own horn here. The only way I could do that was knowing that she was there. She was helping me with database. She was helping me get out to them. And that was before you had all the social media and everything else going on, right? So I had somebody there. And I had one component when I wanted to hire them. The only thing I said in my little ad is I said, I just want everybody that phones to be able to hear your smile over the phone. That was my only criteria.
I like that.
You probably remember, I don't know if you remember Lynn. It was probably before your time.
I remember Lynn. Yep.
Yeah, because she went on to work with ReMax and everything. So she was really good. And I think she really helped me get those numbers.
Of course. So, yeah. Choosing the right person that's capable, and at the level you want them to be, it's important. Yeah.
Yes. And I've had some great assistants.
Yeah, right. So, another choice that you made when you got started in the business was to choose to align yourself with ReMax. And that's obviously a big decision too. It's certainly perhaps a bit of a bigger investment into your business, right off the bat as well. What made you make that choice, and why do you still choose to be with ReMax today?
Choice of your brokerage is a very critical choice. Okay. And what I would say is that early on, you've got to look at your brand is non-existent. So for a certain amount of money, and there are all these different brands out there, is that you can brand associate with whoever you want. Okay. And so what you want to do is make a choice on who you want to brand associate with. While your brand is on the meaningless side, you want a powerhouse brand to sort of stand behind. And as you do your business, and as you gain in credibility, and as you gain in prominence over the years, your brand comes up. And at some point in time, one might argue that your brand is, most important to you. And then the ReMax becomes somewhat secondary. Okay. But it's always a powerhouse brand. We looked at, when I got into business, you had Sussex and Prudential at the time, and then you had ReMax, and then you had Angel Hasman, and you had a few others that were all sort of smaller boutique brands. And a lot of people like the smaller boutique kind of local brand, but they don't have that brand awareness that spans countries. I go to Toronto, and they say, who do you work for? I say ReMax. They know in a heartbeat what I do and who I am. Right? I go to Arizona or California. I've been in Austria, and I popped into the ReMax office there, for the fun of it, and I had an hour with one of the realtors there. We had a great time, conversation and coffee and stuff like that. So that is an international brand for really no extra charge. If you look at it, and I looked at it from a standpoint, I'm not doing volume down here where I'm worried about one or two deals and how much a deal fee is. I'm looking at doing a substantial amount of volume, and they're all basically the same cost at that rate. And I always knew that Prudential's big deal was insurance. So they could divest of their real estate arm at any time, which they did after 15 years, right? ReMax is the only thing they do, right? And they're a powerhouse brand and recognized internationally. So you can go to Toronto and say, I work for Angel Hasman, and they're going to think you're an accountant, right? Or a lawyer or something, right? Yeah. So there's no immediate identifier. That balloon is known all over the world.
Right.
And for no extra cost, I can have that associated with my name, which builds my brand power to a point now where, if you look at my business card, the ReMax is very subdued. It's very small, but it got me here.
Right. Yeah. So, and it's a brand at the same level as you are in the business too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
Push that as much as I push the Ballard name now. But that transitioned over time.
You know, it's interesting. I hired an agent a while ago, and in his first few months with us, he said, Cassidy, he says, you know, you won't believe it what happened. He says he was representing the seller in a multiple offer. There was multiple offers coming in, and there were two of the offers were very similar price, very similar terms and conditions and all of that. He said, my client said, let's just choose the ReMax offer. And I always thought that stood out to me as just, you know, there's a lot of hidden ways where it just tilts the scales in your favor. And it just, you know, and, you know, if that happens, you know, once or even a couple times a year, even just once a year, it more than pays for itself. And yeah, that's always just been something kind of that's jumped out at me is the power of the brand. Yeah, it works.
Well, you know, and I've seen a lot of like Denise when she was fully active, and a bunch of others who really work the referral network. I've been blessed and been lucky to get a lot of referrals over the years, right? But there's some real estate agents that simply work the ReMax referral network,
Right.
and can make a substantial career in it. And have fun going to where all of the shows are and all of the meetings, and whether it's Vegas or Hawaii or, you know, this is obviously pre-COVID, but, you know, you go all over and you travel and you have fun and you see other like-minded, caring, sincere individuals. And that sincerity comes through and they want to do business with you. And when they have a Vancouver realtor, that you're the person that gets not. That it can't happen in a boutique firm.
That's right. Yeah, it's an extra opportunity for you to do more business and to connect with peers in different areas. Absolutely.
And they don't have, the boutique firms don't have that depth of leadership, that depth of experience. They may be very collaborative as we are, but they don't have that depth of international, you know, guys that know and have been doing this business for a long time.
Right. Yeah. Well, Mark, you were just great, as I expected you to be. Thank you so much for, you know, being so forthcoming and sharing, you know, the wealth of information that you shared here today. For those of you watching and that maybe caught this partway through, this is always recorded for viewing after, so you can catch the playback on Facebook or on YouTube. And coming up next week, next Thursday, I believe it's the 21st of January, we have another Mark. We have Mark Hammer. Also, I think just as long as you in the business. And so we're going to be diving into all things success with him. He is also looking to grow and expand his team. So if you are interested in joining a team, that could be a good option. Once again, Mark, thank you so much. And you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You too, Cassidy. See you later. Bye.